If this is your first time in my life, my name is Chief Apostle Samuel Ely Jr. I am the apostle and pastor of Apostolic Faith of Jesus Christ Incorporated, and my beliefs are deeply rooted in the ATRs. To each and every one of you guys, welcome to our live on today. As above, so below. This is Sunday. This means that the sun rules, which means Leo rules over the sun, and Leo also rules over the heart. This is talking about fire energy. I want to say to each and every one of you guys, thank you so much for your continued support. Also following Chief Apostle on his social media platforms. Also supporting my website. To each and every one of you guys that are interested in learning what real magic is. I want to say first of all, thank you to my Padrino, to my Oba, and to all of my brothers and sisters in Ifa, Voodoo, Santeria, Lukumi, Congo, Palo, Mystic, and Adjays. To those in the church that are practicing the ATRs and those have left the church that are still practicing the ATR. What's up, my Boaz? What's up in the house? What's up, Jelly Sweets? I got my Pisces and my Gemini in here first. I would say to each and every one of you guys, I've been doing magic ever since I was a child. Um, I've encountered various of situations. And this has allowed me to perfect my gift, my talent, and also my faith in the diaspora. With the ancestors, the angels, the spirits, the Impungos, um, the Orishas, and anything that I have had the privilege of working with. What's up, Mama Susan? My Gemini. What's up there, Demetrius? Gemini, back to back. Um, this is going to be a really informative live. If you do have my products, if you have gotten work done for me, or anybody of my caliber, this is going to make a whole lot of sense and give you a better understanding how things interconnect. I want to say also hello to my Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Aquarius, Cancer, Capricorn, Leo, Sagittarius, Scorpio, Libra, and Virgo. Hello to each and every one of you guys. I want to say also that these teachings are coming from somebody of a lived experience, of a lived commitment, a lived dedication. What's up, my baby Scorpio? Thank you so much, Mother Susan. I want to share something with you guys that the reason why I talk about these situations is because if you are going to do spiritual work for yourself, or you're going to get spiritual work done, or you're going to be active with any type of tradition or system, these are some of the things you need to be aware of. How energy works in a given situation, in a given system. Why certain things are so important. As the day is Sunday, and sun energy, which is solar plexus and your willpower. I went to Miami yesterday to pick up some items, and to see how much I have progressed in my own personal situation, and how I am able to still deal with other people in their situation. And I'm going to explain this in a way that you will understand if you are getting work done, or you gotten work done, or you doing work. And I want to talk about this in hopes that melanated people will see where our country is headed and what we can do to shield ourselves and protect ourselves and get provision for ourselves through whatever these systems of this world are going through. The challenges is that it's better to be tested before something happens, instead of waiting for something to happen and to wonder if what you know and what you got can really get you through what you're dealing with. A lot of the confidence, even though I'm a Sagittarius, Moon in Aries, and rising sign Pisces, some things are innate in people, and some things are acquired or obtained because of what they've gone through. And I was talking to Mother Susan and my kids and different ones I've been communicating with, and explaining them, if you thought I believed God before, if you thought I trusted God before, after going through this ordeal, it has solidified a lot of things in my life that have brought me to a whole nother level of trust, a whole nother level of receiving. Manifestation happens on different types of realities or different types of beliefs, of different types of experiences. Okay. My subject today, as somebody that teaches universal laws, so people won't be excluded no matter what they worship, what they practice, or what they're involved in. Not even whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, or you're an onlooker, and you're just somebody that's curious to have a better understanding. These teachings help you understand why certain things are closed off to some people and they're open to others. Even if you have something open to you, you still got to follow protocol. You still have to go through the necessary changes. Let me explain to y'all something like this. It's the same thing when you go to school and you study something, or study a subject. It's only studying gives you the information. Real life experience or encounters help you to understand, what did you learn? Is it viable, or is it applicable, or is it something that you need to revise? Oftentimes, many melanated people are going through things that they're not going into those things with trusted information, with viable information, with valid information. And this is what I want us to understand. The reason why you have to go through certain processes is that it validates what you trust, what you're working with, whether it's your egg sticks, whether it's a candle, whether it's divination through cards or cowrie shells, or any form of divination tools. And my subject is, on this Sunday, working the remains. Working what has remained. Remain true, remain effective, remain up under challenge. This is where you get to the point you start understanding why there's no such thing as an easy way. Anybody that is still out here and is a grown man or woman, and you're trying to still find an easier way, you're not living in reality. First of all, always remember, whether it's Ifa, Voodoo, Santeria, Lukumi, Congo, Palo, we came down to this earth as gods and goddesses, because the earth is a training facility. Don't matter your measure. This is what happens when people think, oh, if I go into another religion, then I don't have to adhere to what the rules and regulation of Christianity or the rules and regulation of Islam or the rules and regulations of my mama house, my daddy house, my cousin house, my brother house, or this business or that. Let me explain something to you. Universal laws have been tried and tested, and they have remained through centuries. They have remained through slavery. There's traditions out here that have gone through the circumstance of human evolution that is still enduring after being tested over and over again from one man to another woman, from one situation to the next situation, rich, poor, educated, uneducated. This is why we have the traditions that have lasted thousands upon thousands of years. They have been tried. They remain. That's what I want y'all to understand. Now, I'm going to be coming from, what's up, Sister Calvina? 1 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, 13 verse through the 15th. And I'm going to read this. It says, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare, or the light, because it shall be revealed by fire. The reason why I want to explain this on Sunday, whether you have the element of Aries fire, the element of Leo fire, or Sagittarius fire. Fire illuminates. Fire purifies. But it purifies not like water cleanses. It purifies by changing the temperature of an object to remove anything that is not of that original element. Whether it's gold, whether it's silver, the scripture talks about being purified like gold and silver. It removes all impurities. Anything, it's like when you take an antibiotic, a natural antibiotic, it doesn't damage your natural bacteria or any organs in your body, but it only removes foreign objects. Listen to this. And the fire shall try every man's, or test every man's work of what sort it is. This is why we do candle work. This is why we do bonfires. This is why even in the scripture, John the Baptist came and baptized with water. He said one is coming greater, and he's going to baptize you with fire. Each element has something to do with our prosperity, our protection. I want to go on in verse 14. It said, if any man's work abides, which he had built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. If any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Now, let me explain this. A lot of times we're going through situations, and I can explain my situation. I don't care how much knowledge I have acquired. When I start going through certain situations in my personal life or with my clients, those situations allow me to see what's affected. It allows me to see the enduring ability of certain works that I do. It allows me to know what I can really put more trust in or less trust in. There are certain things that you do workings where it's permanent, and you do workings where it's temporal. The reason why this is important in this particular lesson, when you go through something, I don't care if a relationship, I don't care if it's a job, a business, a spiritual relationship, it don't matter. There are certain things, when you go through those things, should fall off. If the way of thinking, the certain things that I believed in when I was younger, I don't believe in that. Like at this age, I don't believe in that. I believe more in my spirituality because of the efforts that I make. I did when I was younger. I believed that all I had to do was do my prayers. All I had to do is light my candles. All I had to do is desire something. As I got older and I kept going, those are mindsets that started burning away. The reason why I stress so much about knowledge and studying is because the more knowledge you have, the better opportunity is for you to make better decisions. This is why magic is more effective with seasoned people than people that are just beginning, because everything can't shape me. Everything can't move my mind, move my emotions. I'm able to be more consistent in what I'm believing the spirit to bring to pass. This is what remains. Whatever you go through, you should not go through a situation where you're not learning anything. You should be learning. Certain behaviors should be burnt in the process. Certain ways of doing things should be burnt up. Have you ever thought about, I don't know if you're, because I'm constantly dealing with the fire element. When something is burned, it's transformed into ashes. It is no longer recognizable. These are the things that we're supposed to drop. The scripture said, lay aside the sin and the weight that so easily beset us. I don't care what type of work you get done. I don't care what type of situation you're in. The fire is there to light the way and to remove anything that is foreign that you may have picked up through your endeavors, through your trials, through your experiences. People are talking about they don't believe in love no more. You don't believe in love because your perception about love, your perception about support, your perception about what you're entitled to is burnt, and you never let that go. You never allowed the fire to actually teach you what it came to do. I'm a better person, a better man, a better spiritual person because of my fiery trials. The things that I have gone through and the things that have remained true through everything that I have dealt with, through every situation. Let me tell y'all something. And I don't want nobody to take this the wrong way. You can't convince me of certain things about you until I see what remains after you've been through fire. It's like when somebody say, oh, they necklace is real. Thank you for hitting that like button. They necklaces are revealed. There are certain things that you can do to test whether that's real gold, whether that's real silver. There are certain things in life. What's up, Aries in the house? There are certain things in life that will teach you what's real and what's not, what is usable and what's not. Certain things. I mean, my kids. I'm talking different one, my children, but the things that they believe. My middle boy used to always say. When he was in my house, he said, "Dad, I'm a fourth quarter player." After going through life and that fire, he's no longer a fourth quarter player. What he mean by that? I used to say, Josh, you wait till the last minute to do what you got to do. And that's too much stress, that's too much pressure. And because he's a Pisces and he got Jupiter energy, he a lot of times the luck moves in his direction. I say one of these times, Josh, you're not gonna be lucky. You don't want to live your life on that mindset of being a fourth quarter player. Now he's 30, just recently turned 31. He's not a fourth quarter player. He's more proactive in his life. These are the things that you learn what need to be burned up and not be reused, and things that remain, you apply. When you get real teaching and you get real instruction, and most of us, especially people around me, you're going to do your own thing. Instead of blaming people, placing things, ask yourself, the strategy I utilize to deal with this situation, how did it work out for me? What actually remained my idea? This is why we look at certain people and they never change, because they don't realize why they keep going through certain things and situations. They getting prayer, they praying, they getting work, but certain things don't change in their life, because when that fire came to bring enlightenment, when that fire came to remove the dross in that situation, you still start trying to work with what was burnt instead of working with what was remain. Yes, you will work. Yes, you will clock in. Yes, you would. Now you will. You will remain loyal or faithful. But your qualities is not your problem. Your choices of who you are loyal to, or who you are faithful to, who are you supported to, that was your problem. I always try to encourage people to understand what they're going through, why they're dealing with that. When I came to the conclusion that there's nothing new up under the sun, and that I need to take my energy, my power, my authority, and utilize the remains of things that have been tested and have survived what I have gone through. I'm more meticulous now than I was. I used to be a person that I would give people the benefit of the doubt, and I would jump both feet into situations. I'm way more cautious now than I have ever been. Every situation allows you to evolve in a more grounded and a more seasoned person. And as a person, you may be an employee, you may be a supervisor, you may be a boss, you may be a business owner, you may be a spiritual man or spiritual woman of conscience, you may be an athlete, but the things that remain is what you carry to your next situation. The things that got burnt because they did not have substance, certain ideas that don't have a plan, gonna get burnt through that fire. Certain relationships that are built on shallowness. And I don't care if it's friendship, I don't care if it's lovers, I don't care if it's husband, If you build your life on shallow things, it's not going to endure the fire of those situations. I don't care who you are. The only reason why I keep rising to the top of my situation is because the things that I kept applying were things that remained after I went through the fire of my trial. Now, I want to talk about remains. I want to talk about energy, abiding. I'm going to be coming from 2 King, the 13th chapter, verse 21. It says, and it came to pass, as they were burying a man, that behold, the spied a band of men, and they cast the man into the sepulchre, or the tomb, or the grave of Elisha. And when the man was let down, and touched the bones, or the remains of Elisha, he revived and stood up on his feet. When we talk about remains, and you think about why the cemetery is so effective on a natural born necromancer, because essence still remain in the bones of humans, the bones of animals. This is why you see in certain traditions they have animal parts, because that ache, or that chi, that's prana, is still abiding in those bones, or those body parts. And depending on which bone or body part you're using, there's certain workings that we do with certain things. When we work in a graveyard, we put certain things at the head for a certain reason. We put things on the left side or the right side for a reason. Or we put things at the foot of a grave for a reason. Because energy resides, even though the spirit itself has departed, the soul, but it still has essence of that soul in the bones, or the remains of that individual, or that animal, or that fowl. It don't matter. Birds, land animals, fish. I have piranha bones. They carry the essence of the energy of that particular soul, or that particular animal, that particular plant. Plants have the remains. We call them fossils. When we have amber, it's a fossilized wood. That means that things have decayed on the inside of that element, and therefore, because you energetically can tap into those essences, you can utilize them based off of your purpose and your intention. The reason why there's so many scriptures that show us conjure, mysticism, magic in the Bible, or any form of written literature, is because everything is spirit. And it doesn't matter if it's something that you don't believe in. If something continuously to remain from one generation to the next, that means that particular sigil, that particular ritual, that particular prayer, that particular working has endured the fire of each generation, which has proven to have essence or benefit by utilizing. You can't, let me say it like this. No amount of reading, no amount of research is going to help you believe in herbal magic, except you see the essence or the energy or the frequency of that the herbs work. A lot of people read things out of books and think because of what somebody is describing to you what that can do, until you actually work the root, until you actually work the herb and see what it can do with you. Then you build a trust, a relationship in conjure or in prayer work or in ritualistic work, and see things come to pass. Let me say it like this. I don't want to speak about myself in this regard because I have people coming to me. I'm trying to explain to you why certain things, when you go through certain things, why you are unstable when it comes to your manifestation because of what things look like or what you hear. When it comes down to the remains and working with them, you have to understand there's a story behind those bones. The reason why Elijah's bones resurrected the man is because of the story behind Elijah's life. Each bone, each essence, each remain has a story. When you understand the story and you trust the story, and I believe this, I don't put my trust in anything until I see it work. And I realize I have to put the effort in that thing in order for that thing to work. And once I see what it has the capacity of doing, and then I rate it to this is what something I use when things are heavy. I have certain artillery in here that I don't go through or mess with because it don't take that kind of artillery. It's like you can fight a war or a battle without using nukes. There should be certain degrees of severity that you are working with certain things for certain purposes. And when you get a better understanding of the thing called life, you will determine what and how, why you will use certain things. Let me tell you something. I was communicating with somebody, and they wanted to remove certain people from their life or a certain person. I would not use really harsh magic to move certain people because you're not trying to injure. You're just trying to detour them from your direction. And so therefore, there's a certain level of severity you won't use. This is even when you got stuff that remain and certain things are effective, then you got to have a better judgment of how you apply those certain remains in your life. If you want to work with remains, you need to understand the energy or the story behind those remains. Just because somebody, I'm going to use an example about a prophet or prophetess. Just because they hold the same office don't mean they have the same story. This is why I'm constantly learning about different herbs, of how to utilize different types of herbs, how to utilize them in tinctures, how to utilize them in conjure, how to utilize them in cleansing. And there's multifaceted ways of utilizing things based off of your energy and also based off of the system of magic you're working with. When Elijah was walking on the earth, he was known for having a double portion of Elijah's anointing. I want y'all to think about this, because a lot of times we hear stories, even in the ATRs about Ogun or about Obatala or Oya, and not realizing these people or these spirits or these entities, there's levels to interaction with these spirits. And the more you practice, the stronger you get in that particular Ache. What's up there, Cancer in Chi-Town? Sasha Fields in the house. So when you're getting Egun sticks or you're getting crystals, they have an Ache, they have a story behind them. And depending on the purpose of the walk or the path that you utilize these instruments, is what the Ache that's gonna remain. Using things, using cooling herbs versus herbs of fire. A cooling herb would be eucalyptus. A fiery herb would be cayenne. There's different types of trees that have different elements. And it allows us to function. This right here, this is a blackthorn wand. It is ruled by Mars, which is fire, and it's also ruled by Saturn, which is earth. Saturn is also, certain planets and certain spirits have different elements, but basically this is a warrior's staff, a warrior's wand. I don't use this all the time, even if I'm in a spiritual conflict, because every conflict is not a battle and every conflict is not a war. That's something I have learned over time. There are certain tools I don't address in my workings because it is not that type of situation. And that is wisdom when you're trying to last out here. Let me say this. Depending on how you want your life to end up, is really dependent upon how you utilize your energy and what you utilize your energy for. And if you don't learn not to make a mountain out of a molehill, you will deal with things a lot more harshly and more intensive than you should. And as you get older and you start going through more and more things, you should be learning better and better judgment and learning how to administer your energy, your frequency, your vibration, utilizing the remains of the things that you have gone through in order to create a better reality and a better life for yourself. I am encouraging you today, if you have worked with me, if you trying to work with somebody, understand the system of their magic. Learn how you can influence and benefit from exposure of that type of magic. I have a lot of things that carry certain energies and frequencies and vibrations. And when I share things with people, they got to understand that's certain essence that you have. If you have talisman, that's Ogun, that carries a certain essence. Learn to utilize that essence for change, getting through things, accomplishing things, knowing what it takes in order to utilize those essence and the purpose of those essence, the purpose of those bones. And that's even down to like when you go to the cemetery, and this is why you hear people, especially with Black American people, understanding who your ancestors are, not the life that you think they live, but the actual life they actually live. Because when you bring that remain or that resonance, you know, the people got I got one of my members' mother's ashes in here, but I know who she is. Certain things you don't want to be a part of your working because of the remains. Certain things you want to be a part of your working because of what them remains were able to do. And then utilizing those various bones or those ashes in order to move your life forward. Don't ask for black people, melanated people. Don't ask for things in your life that you have not considered where you're going to be in the next year or 2 or 3 years. Just like buying a house and you want to have kids, you want a wife or a husband. Then you set your life up and you purchase things that can grow with your desires. When you get work done, you want work done that grows with your evolution. You want to work with spirits that can carry on from one decade to the next, from your 20s to your 30s to your 40s to your 50s to your 60s, and etc. This is all important. This is understanding how energy works with remains. This understanding of how to utilize certain spirits or ache that allow us to accomplish different things, especially when it comes down to protection work. I want to talk about that. To work protection is not only to understand your energy and what you need protection from. In my line of work, I have to use protection with my head to make sure that nobody's interfering with my ori or my crown. I'm using different terminology. Why that's important? Because that can affect my readings. That can affect the messages that I get, not only for myself. It can affect my vision. We have a term they call the turning of the head. You want to make sure somebody ain't leading your head in one direction, not knowing that you've been influenced by another entity, another spirit, or another conjurer. But you're being led by your own spirits, your own ancestors. That's also important. Your protection when it comes to your hand, because that has to do with your prosperity. Whatsoever you set your hands to do shall prosper. So we anoint our hands with certain things. Even if you're anointing your hands with what church folks call a blessing oil, it's still a form of protection, depending on how strong it is. And a lot of times you're not going to know how strong your protection is until you get into a situation. You know, I think this is the deception that a lot of people feel, and they feel like somebody's attacking them when they went into a battle or they went to a situation not having the right amount of protection or being able to protect themselves. Their skill sets were not as efficient as they thought it was, depending on who you're going up against, what you're trying to accomplish, what you're trying to turn around, what you're trying to heal. I have been very fortunate to work the remains. So sorry I'm late. It's better late than never. You always get the playback. I want to talk about growing with the energy of remains. When you go through one cycle and go through another cycle, what was left over? What was left over from your experience? You've heard me say this before, and I'll say it again. The knowledge, the wisdom, the understanding that I give has no expiration date. I know that's right. Won the war with a butter knife and a windbreaker. And I believe this happens because people listen to other people that have not really gone through a lot of things, dealing with stuff, but not going through certain things to prepare themselves. It's no different than setting up a house or setting up an apartment or setting up a business or setting up, like, you got to put a lot of work into something in order for it to get up and running. And when people don't realize the many layers to their own being, then how can you properly protect yourself on certain levels that you don't know exist? This is why constantly being around spiritual people, constantly growing, constantly educating yourself, it makes you more and more aware. I knew about politics. But until I got older, did I realize how much politics play into my everyday living. Whether I have to pray or work harder, or I can work smoother based off of who's in office, based off of what they're doing. What type, when I'm working a court case, what type of judge was elected? What's his or her story? Because if I got a client that got a DUI and the judge story is that his or her parent got killed by a drunk driver, they're going to be more harsher on DUI than the other judges. Not that the judge is not going to deal with you, but their perception about that particular situation is going to be judged a lot harder. And so that when you're a spiritualist and you're doing conjure work, it really matters about who you're going up against, what's their story, what's their backdrop, and how can you influence that situation more effectively for your client. Relationship, getting a backdrop on this is why divination or doing readings is important, because it helps you to be able to address the situation more correctly for that certain outcomes to take place. Let's see what else I want to share. Oh, remains. The reason why we use jars or containers, because if you are dealing with remains, they need to be held in a vessel that can contain the energy, the ache, the chi, the prana. Most of us have glass situation or ceramic that can hold that energy. Even though some of it you can feel the energy around the object, but you need things that can actually hold or harness that energy of those remains. This is why having proper containers is important, a part of conjuring. Knowing that if you're gonna say, for instance, you got a juju charm, a mojo bag. You want to place it on something that's not going to drain. the energy of your mojo bag, your crystals, your bracelets. Some of you guys got bracelets from me or various places where you had conjure. You don't want to just set your spiritual stuff on anything, because that can determine how it is more effective or less effective. Putting a lot of times I keep a lot of the objects on the cauldrons, or I keep them sitting on the separos of the orishas or the impungos, depending on what I'm doing. And I put those objects there because they can hold that particular energy. Working remains of situations, working remains of human parts or animal parts, and working remains. What's up there, my Ryan? Libra in the house. Working remains of the essence of trees, branches. I call it fossilized material. These are all the things that we utilize in order to make our magic more effective. And this also gives us different parts of enlightenment. Sun enlightens. When you want to grow, when you want to be a more of a support, you want change, you want to increase, you want to enlarge your territory. This is enlightenment, lighting the way for you to get to your goals, to get to your respected places, to know what's in the heart of a man or a woman, the intention, bringing light to a situation and not overreacting, but utilizing that enlightenment in order to deal with or navigate in that situation. One of the things that I have really appreciated, because I'm very, very happy with my growth coming through my situation. But it was because I still was applying myself. I was eating the things that I needed to intake for my body. I was understanding the essence of some of the stuff. One of the things I've been taking is aged garlic. And the reason I want to bring up garlic, because the fact that I know garlic is ruled by Mars. Garlic, I know what it does in the body. I know what it does in spell work and conjure. I understand why I utilize certain things. The reason I speak to many of you guys, and what you're going to find out with Apostle Ely, is that what I'm learning, I'm going to use over and over and over again, because it remains. It remains true. It remains useful and valid. I don't teach stuff that can only be used in one way, in one situation. I teach things of a universal concept. It's just like having a remote control that is universal, which means it can work with more than one type of TV, a television set. Smart television, because it's universal. Universal laws apply in every given situation. And this is really a good teaching, because this right here shows you that depending on how you are, depending on why you only going so far, depending on how much drive you're willing to put into something, how much you're willing to learn, how much you're willing to invest. I'm gonna tell y'all something. If you're gonna be into spirituality or business, you got to always remember, that it takes people to invest in what you're doing. You have to be able to show a certain value that a person is willing to invest in what you're doing. I don't care if it's selling dinners. I don't care if it's selling products or services. That's a need. If there's a need, or we call it in the business of demand, then the supply is necessary. But if there's no need, there's no reason for the supply. So there's never going to be a situation, especially in my line of work, where there's not going to be a need for my gifts, my talents, my abilities. What I'm doing now is making myself more sufficient because I'm getting older. I'm readjusting my platform. I'm readjusting the direction of my ministry, and making things more convenient, more easier for me to do or execute what I do. That's all I'm trying to teach you. Because tradition or systems, that can be learned. But if you step in those situations, circumstances, and not understanding energy, frequency, and vibration, and why certain things have, because in the tradition that I'm in, there's a lot of blood. And you need to understand that, and the essence of blood, the essence of animal parts and bones, the essence of your ancestors, which are bones or ashes. It don't matter. Even when somebody gets, I'm just giving an example. Even if somebody is lost out in sea, and say they decompose, their essence is still in that water. If they get eaten and they become feces out of a shark, their essence is not going, it's just broken down. So whether there's a whole skeleton there or there's pieces of the skeleton scattered, those essence still remain. Whether that corpse's skeleton is all in one place or if it's scattered abroad, it's still connected to that one entity, one spirit. And that's where I want people to understand, depending on where you do work at and what you're doing it for, how blessed that hand was, how blessed those feet were, how much were they able to stand their ground. Because if they wasn't really able to stand their ground, was just because you buried that work at the foot of the grave, down, if they wasn't able to stand their ground in life, they ain't gonna be able to stand their ground in the spirit world. I'm just giving you some professional insight. This is why certain spirits or certain ancestors are employed, because they know how they were able to stand their ground when they were living. And they're going to be able to stand their ground in the spirit world. They weren't a pushover or a rollover in this life, and then they're not going to be that way in the spirit world. So when you're looking for steady work or sturdy work, these are the things that have to be considered. This is why it matters how you live your life. In this body, it matters how you live your life and what you live your life for. Because that's how you mold your energy. We are not shocked from the story behind Elijah and the story behind Elisha that happened. The same thing is true when you're tapping into the energy of an elder or a santero or a pastor or apostle or a mambo or a hugon a yami, a hoodoo is a voodoo. It's the energy. And you may, in my encouragement, make sure, if you can, that the energy complements. And it's something that you can grow with from one stage of your life to the next. The reason why certain people fall off is because they can only take you so far. The reason why certain people fall off because they only want to go so far. Never judge your progress based off of what somebody else is doing. If you made up your mind how far you want to go in life, that's what you measure it by. Because a lot of time people's like that judge things and they really don't know the story behind it. So I want to thank you for your time. I thank you for your support. I thank you for visiting my website. I thank you for hanging there with Apostle Ely. I thank you for learning. I thank you for growing. This is the day that the more we understand, the better we are able to interact with energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay? Thank you so very much. I'll see y'all later. God bless.